when we meet people where they are and we meet ourselves where we are, with self-compassion, with compassion for others, we can develop meaningful and deep connections that are magical. It's an energy that we cannot explain. I wish I had an answer here, but the truth is that we cannot put in words. You just can feel a sense of peace, of life is right, life is going well, no matter the circumstances.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Reflections on Living Well podcast, where we explore perspectives on the good life in the 21st century. I am your host, Broderick. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Reflections on Living Well podcast. Today, our guest is Susane Smiroldo. Susane is a clinical mental health counseling graduate student committed to a multicultural, integrative approach to healing. Her work weaves together evidence-based counseling with embodied practices rooted in mindfulness, cultural humility, and somatic awareness. She is a certified Vinyasa prenatal and trauma-informed yoga instructor and a mindfulness teacher trained through Harvard and Blue Cliff Monastery. Susane was recently awarded the Haberman-Williams Scholarship by the Massachusetts Mental Health Counselors Association, recognizing her as a model of academic and professional excellence. She speaks on topics including mindfulness, trauma, mental health, and immigrant resilience. Born in Brazil and based in Massachusetts, deeply passionate about Zen meditation, which she practices with her sangha in Massachusetts, as well as exploring nature and playing Capoeira. She is also the proud mother of Valentina, Lorenzo, and Antonella, her greatest teachers and daily inspiration. Hi, Susane.
Hello, Broderick. So nice to be here.
Yeah, nice to be here with you as well. We have a common interest there. We have quite a few common interests: capoeira, yoga, meditation.
Nature.
Yeah, nature. Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah,
It's
we're like
true.
soul brother and sister already. Let's see what
You're
happens.
not kidding.
Let's see what happens in this
That's true.
conversation.
Yeah, I believe that the universe connects us with people who think alike, and that's what happened to us, right? So
Right?
beautiful.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Well, maybe in this conversation, maybe we'll share how we met. Um, but I'm excited to have this conversation with you. Since we have so many things of interest, it's going to be interesting to see what your take is on the questions that are posed on this podcast.
Hmm.
But before we jump into that, I like for folks to introduce themselves. The bio is great, but it's
Yeah.
something special when someone introduce themselves.
Well, I think the bio is what we need to just say who is going to be in the post in this podcast today, right?
Right?
First, thank you so much for the invitation to be here, Broderick. It's such an honor to be at this talking a podcast that makes so much sense for me, right? With you and introducing myself after that bio is just like I'm a human being looking for answers, right? Curious, trying to figure out this journey called life, and passionate about human beings around me, nature, grateful. Just another random human being there trying to figure out the answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
A mom has been my main role so far. Mom of three beautiful kids, and yeah, Brazilian living in the United States, immigrant, and nowadays working with mental health, trying to integrate what makes sense for me in my mental health path for others also in front of me in the office while doing therapy.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, I think more of your, or at least I hope more of your story will come out in your exploration and our exploration uh,
Mm-hmm.
on the theme of this podcast on living well. So let's jump right into that. I already have lots of questions I want to ask pertaining to what you just mentioned, but let's jump into this question, and I think I'll table it in my mind for now and see if I can pull it back out later. But let's start with the questions that I pose on this podcast. What does living well mean to you? What is a good life? What makes life worth living? I ask those questions
Mm-hmm.
interchangeably, but and I know that they're slightly different. But I'm just going to throw those three out there at you and just see how you respond to those, and then we'll unpack it.
That's so true. And it's funny because the podcast invite us to say to understand, like, to be curious about what is that person gonna say about what is living well, right? Maybe they found out the recipe for life.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is that there is no right answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
According to our journeys. And today, I would say that living well for Suzanne, who is 40 years old, is having meaningful connections, having the possibility to live according to my values and making them my purpose in life, my core values, and also being curious about life, about people. The fact that for me, living well is understanding that nothing's personal and that every human being has the right to be met wherever they are in life, as long as there is no harm. That gives me a sense of peace in living well.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes myself.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful connection. Yeah, I like that connection, core values, and
Purpose.
purpose. Beautiful. So let's unpack that a little bit. Why do you think? Well, not what do you think? Why do you feel like connection? Or what makes connection so important to you? Can you unpack that a little bit?
When I say connection, means connection with myself as well,
Mm,
connection with nature, connection with sacred things around us. For me, it's like nature, for example, and human beings, right? Connections because I believe that everybody in front of us, around us, are teachers. And those connections are what move us forward to learn, to evolve during our quick trip in this place called Earth. Without connections, we are not able to learn, right? So, connections because they fulfill us when they are true, right? When as I said, when we meet people where they are and we meet ourselves where we are with self-compassion, with compassion for others, we can develop meaningful and deep connections that are magical. It's an energy that we cannot explain. I wish I had an answer here, but the truth is that we cannot put in words. You just can feel a sense of peace, of life is right, life is going well, no matter the
mm-hmm,
circumstances. So that's why I
mm-hmm.
said connections.
Yeah, it's indescribable, isn't it? There's a phrase that I've heard in the past is that God is in the space between two people, for instance. And you can think of God as just ineffable experience. I like to call it the divine because God has this anthropomorphic connotations in our language, various languages. Um, but I think you're right. It resonates with me at least that it's really indescribable. And I'll just ask you, what can we do to enhance the chance of making that type of connection?
That's a good question. And I would be very pretentious if I give you the right answer, right? But for
Right.
me, what I say to people, I love to use analogies for things. Imagine that every human being in front of us, if you could see them just their whole life, like a machine that you could just understand that human being, where they're coming from, why they think like that. And I do understand that sometimes it's so hard.
Mm-hmm.
But when we meet people where they are with curiosity, why? Where are you coming from? Right? Just be interested in everybody's stories around us. I think then we can develop connection. Because at the end of the journey, Broderick, I believe that everybody just wanna be understood, to be, and then once people feel that energy and we feel that energy towards ourselves, we can develop like meaningful connections. That would be my answer. That's what we can do, to be curious about human beings and everything around us.
Mhm. Yeah, folks. Yeah, folks. Um, that's not a simple statement. There, she made it sound like it's simple. Oh yeah, just be curious, but it's really profound, actually. And when we allow ourselves to be curious, we're open and we're receptive to another.
Mm-hmm.
And being open, being really truly open and receptive, can be a challenge, because sometimes we want to protect our narrative, our stories, and we're afraid that someone is going to say something or tell us something that contradicts our own narrative and story. So it's going to be very difficult for us to be genuinely curious in them and who they are, because it may threaten our sense of self. And I think all of us are like that. I mean, it just kind of comes with you're a therapist, you're probably aware of this. It kind of comes with the minds that we have, and navigating the world. Um, is that there's this battle, not battle, there's this conflict in our minds. We want to know about others, but then there's this part of us that's like, well, no, 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 don't know too much, because it might be in contradiction to where we are right now, where my sense of self is, and then we start comparing ourselves to the other person, and we're not really genuinely open to them. So there's a barrier between me and the other person, and it's not allowing us to connect. Does that make sense to you? Am I just babbling?
It makes total sense. And it makes sense because it seems that the answer is simple. Oh, just be curious about people. But it's not something that you just force yourself to do. Energy is something, we've been talking about that before. Energy, you cannot explain energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the truth is that when we come to this world, on my opinion, we are all curious. Look at young kids. They're
Mm-hmm.
curious. They want to explore. They're so genuine. Like they are very, very curious. And I love to see that. Babies are curious and toddlers. And then, but the truth is that life keeps shaping us with experiences that change us over the
Mm-hmm.
time. So I see that a lot in my office as a therapist. People come with a lot of shades, with a lot of levels around them, right? That prevent them to just be curious because they're afraid. We are afraid to explore. We are afraid of what's going to come out of someone else that is not going to make us happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there is a saying from Thai Thich Nhat Hanh that says the way out is in, by exploring ourselves with curiosity also, in trying to get in our sense of having a real essence, our pure essence, right? The more we explore ourselves, the more curious we are about others around us. But it's not something that like there is a formula that we can explain to people. It's just a dance, right? That you learn
Mm-hmm.
how to dance with life experiences, and it's beautiful when you start doing that. So the journey in makes you just be curious about whatever is around you. That's why I always talk about ladybugs, and I told you that before.
Mm-hmm.
My obsession with ladybugs. But I just started like appreciating ladybugs when I started being curious about what is around me. And then
Mm-hmm.
nature makes sense, and then the world makes much more sense. And even people that think different from you make sense in your journey because they are teachers. We
Mm-hmm.
should teach each other.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I love it. All of it. Yeah, I love how you went there, because I think I agree with you. It starts with us, and being open to ourselves and curious about ourselves is how we learn how to be curious about others. I mean, of course, you can be curious about others, and there's a feedback loops there. You can, and there, being open and curious about somebody else can help you be open and curious about yourself. But when we really start to do that with ourselves, then we'll see how challenging it really is to sit. And this is what I like about the meditative traditions, contemplative practices, is really all about being curious about ourselves and then expanding that curiosity beyond the barriers of our skin into nature and other human beings, others, non-human animals, everything. But that curiosity can be challenging. And I'm glad you brought that up because babies are really curious. I know
Yeah.
I've never watched one grow up in my home because I don't have kids like you have. But like you're saying that over a lifetime of conditioning through one's experience, you begin to create boundaries by which you are curious within. And sometimes those are healthy boundaries and sometimes they're unhealthy boundaries. But those boundaries that we create, um, those borders that we create that contains our curiosity can also be problematic in that it doesn't allow us to see ourselves as we really are. And that's the gift of things like meditative traditions, contemplative practices, because they give us the skill to be open and receptive to our experiences, to the way we see things. And so for some of us, that can be scary. Well, as a therapist, I'm sure you come across this when you start asking people questions about themselves. They don't want to go there because for various traumatic experiences, or even experiences that may not necessarily be full on traumatic, but experiences in their lives that they don't want to revisit, or looking at an aspect of themselves that they're afraid of. And there's nothing wrong with this. I guess I'm going through all of this because I want to be clear with the audience that this is natural. It's a natural part of being a human being, but we can learn to work with it by practicing curiosity. And one of the things that we can do to practice curiosity, I think, is the contemplative traditions, like bringing up, Thich Nhat Hanh and his various practices.
That's true. That's very true. I agree that our lives are shaped by experiences, things that we cannot prevent, right? When we come to
Mm-hmm.
this world, there is an author that I really love him so much, Don Miguel Ruiz. He wrote the
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Four Agreements. Who does not love the Four
I
Agreements,
know,
right?
right?
The Toltecs, and it's amazing how he kept the teachings from the Toltecs, like from Mexico. And he says something: when we come to this world, we are stamped with experiences. Like we come to
Mm-hmm.
a certain family, certain culture, and he calls that, he says that human beings are domesticated when we come to this world. And
Mm-hmm.
that is going to shape how we cope in life. The thing is that when we keep getting very distant from what who we really are in terms of our essence, I would say deep inside, we just have to cope with life experiences, and then we get so distant from who we are, and we are dealing with people out there, but if we are far from ourselves, how can we connect with others around us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we have to perform in society because we are demand for, come on, life reality, right? We have to go out there and do what has to be done. But then out of the blue, we find ourselves sick, you name it, anxiety, depression, it comes with different names, but the person is so far from understanding who oneself is that of course we start getting like sick and far from who we are. But the journey coming back to ourselves is so beautiful at the same time because it also honors our experiences, no matter how hard they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so beautiful to see when we look and we're like, wow, that was so tough that happened to me, but I love it because it shapes what I want to be or what I'm doing, or, it makes sense in my journey. It was just a teaching. And then life becomes very interesting, I can tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I know all the answers yet, but that's like very important in my journey to just take things as waves that come and,
Mm-hmm.
and explore with curiosity. So in the therapy process, for example, as counselors, we do need to be curious about ourselves. And I see more and more the schools and the programs, like master programs, doctoral programs, like they're asking us explore yourselves, because otherwise we're going to come to the office and provide therapy, but we don't know what we are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Rogers, an American therapist, amazing guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of Carl Rogers because he's the one who encouraged counselors to understand that we meet people where they are and we explore ourselves to understand why I'm not being curious about that person's story. And it happens to me. There are some parts of myself that I have to look and I'm like, why that bothers you, right? I'm curious. Oh, maybe the way I grew up in Brazil, maybe the way I was domesticated when I came to this. Okay, that now makes sense. Why I'm
Yeah.
biased? Why that person, it's okay. And then the
Yeah.
energy flows between therapists and clients and patients and human beings around us.
Yeah. Ah, that's the dance, right?
That's the dance of life.
The dance of life, and I'm with you that it starts with us. And you're giving the analogy of the in a therapeutic setting, the patient, not the patient, but the client therapist relationship. And you're right; it extends to just you and I having a conversation. The more sensitive I am to myself, the more curiosity I have about who I am and what I'm bringing to this conversation, the more I'm able to be curious about you. Because if I'm aware about of my narrative and the various patterns that have shaped and molded my way of perceiving things, my way of looking at things, if I have that sensitivity, that awareness, because I've engaged on a process of curiosity, it's a journey of curiosity into myself, that's going to translate into how I am in relationship with you on this podcast. I'm very interested. I have all these everything that you're saying. I'm very much interested in. Oh, I'm so curious about where that comes from, and how did this person get to see things this way, um, and that just opens up the possibility for deepening connection between oneself and another. But
Mm-hmm.
it keeps
Mm-hmm.
coming back to connecting with ourselves and being curious about ourselves, and that translates to connecting with others and being curious about others, and hopefully in that process you can inspire the other person to be curious and open.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think it works. It's like I mean, let me be careful here. It may not necessarily work with everybody. Some people actually you can't make it's hard to make universal statements because some people are crazy,
Especially in
just
2025, right?
I know, just you can be like vulnerable and open and curious, and there's this narcissistic social psychopaths out there. But beyond those folks, it's magical when it happens. When you're just vulnerable in the sense of I'm just going to be open, I trust myself, I have a deep curiosity about myself, and so I'm gonna come to this moment open and receptive.
Mm-hmm.
Magic happens. People convey themselves to you, not just in their verbal language, but their physical language, how they're showing up. And that's that connection, that ineffable experience that we get. We have those moments in our interactions with other people when it's like, okay, I'm free to be open here, and I can maybe possibly inspire that other person
Yeah.
to be free and open, because by me doing that, I'm setting up the possibility of trust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about that?
I think that's totally it. That magical moment is so great to experience. And
I
one
know.
thing I wanted to say is that during the journey, we're not going to meet everybody that is who is open, and that's okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have to be aware of our wounds. Like nowadays, I know what is not for me, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things that come from something or someone that is going to trigger wounds that I don't want to be touched, for example. So it's okay. I respect where they are and I just follow my path that makes sense for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because people act by fear. When people are afraid, they're incapable to be open, right? So they protect themselves and they act in ways that can hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to protect myself as well because I still being a human being doesn't mean that I'm like, oh, I'm just curious about, wow, you're hurting me and I'm gonna be curious about yourself. No, 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 it's not gonna work like that. I wish. So the more we know ourselves, the more we know what is right for us and what we want to connect with and what we do not want to connect it with. It's okay
Mm-hmm.
as long as as it causes no harm, right? Everybody has the right to be and to think the way they want as long as they cause no harm.
Mm-hmm.
And for us who are open to understand and to exchange the energy that makes sense for our journeys, right? Doesn't mean that our journeys are right and someone else is wrong. It's just what makes sense for us. As you said, it's so magical that I don't exchange for anything those connections, right? I do have friends in my journey that we can be like years without seeing each other physically, or we don't talk much because life keeps going and we have to dance the dance every day. But when we are together, it's so precious
Yeah.
that connection, we're like, wow, we were in heaven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I say, that is living life well, having those types of connection, right? That makes sense in our journeys, and it's very awesome. And I have that. I'm so proud to say that I do have that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not many, it's not about quantity, but it's about the quality of your connections. And then out of the blue, people keep showing up in your life that are like, wow, I never thought I was going to meet that person, right? But the universe just brings to you because the energy that is flowing is what you're looking for. And then it's just something that comes naturally. I have people who says to me like, are you kind of like, for example, I went to Canada. I drove to Canada from Boston to do a French course there. And I meet this girl who's Brazilian, living in Quebec City, right? And I look at her and I'm like, wow, we talk later. And we connected in such a beautiful way. Like we went to Quebec that same day and we explored the city and we were talking and we're exchanging like deep conversations. And then I came back to Boston and other people say like, you're kind of nuts. You go to Quebec by yourself, you're mom of three kids, and you just meet this person who is gonna come to your house, right, and just stay over because that friend just came over and spent days here with me. And I'm like, but when the energy of connection happens, you just know
Mm-hmm.
that that human being is gonna be part of your life and they are very welcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And I want to encourage my kids to have that because it's the most precious gift that life can give us.
Mm-hmm. Right? That's a good life, isn't it?
It is a great life.
It's great. And when you can have those moments, and like you said, it doesn't, not necessarily a lot of people. It's not about the quantity. It's the
No,
quality of those experiences, and it's something you know. And you put something else in there, and I kind of mentioned it with trust, is that you do need healthy boundaries. You need to have boundaries up. You need to be able to be sensitive to yourself, but also have boundaries. You need to know yourself enough to be like, yeah, I'm curious, but this is abusive. I don't need to be that. I've lost interest. I'm no longer interested in
exactly.
this. This is not healthy. That's, you know, that needs to happen. You need to have those boundaries. There needs to be a certain level of trust in the interaction between yourself and another. And that just comes with practice. That comes with experience. And you connect. You try to make connections with people, and you feel like it's a good connection. And you realize, like, that's something not right. And
No,
the only way you're going to know that something is not right is, again, something that you learn by being curious itself. Is
exactly.
awareness. You have to. Curiosity is magical, folks, because if you're constantly in that space of awareness, you're going to pick up on say for instance, if someone is shady or weird that you're interacting with, you're going to see it if you have that curiosity, if you maintain that curiosity and not make assumptions about the person. We're humans, we're going to make assumptions about people, but we have to maintain that curiosity and that openness to see what is arising in the moment in the particular situations. So curiosity is quite profound if we really practice it and really dig into it. Because, say, for instance, you'd have met this person and you maintain a certain level of curiosity, you would have seen, I can't speak proper English right now. You would have seen if something was off. You would have,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
yeah, you would have known that this person, something is not right with this person, because you maintain a certain level of curiosity and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
openness. So that openness and curiosity, you can pick up good vibes and bad vibes, which is beneficial. And then like, okay, then I can't have that kind of connection with this person, but I can have
Right.
that kind of connection with this other person.
It's true. And I think every human being, Broderick, deserve to be seen with no assumptions, especially not that, like, as you said something, like when we come to this world, we cover our eyes with so many lenses, right? So we see things and people with our lenses, which is okay. It's part of being a human being. But when we try to explore people, and especially minority populations I'm talking about, right? People who are hurt, who suffer, and they are seen for who they are, right? With no judgment, just to meet them where they are. This is one of the most beautiful acts of love we can provide for others,
Yeah.
you know. And what I love about my profession as counselor and as a yoga teacher, and is about that we should provide people the chance to be seen for who they are, not their experiences, not their diagnosis, not what society have labeled them, or just every human being has the right to have a chance to be seen who they are. And when we provide that genuinely, like in a natural way, just something very important happens, because that person start to be empowered.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful. That's the love we can provide for others. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that. And it all comes from curiosity, as you said.
And that's why when you threw that out there in the beginning, I was like, all right, then we should unpack this a little bit.
It's beautiful. I
It
know.
really
It
is.
comes from Carl Rogers, from all those people. My Zen
Mm-hmm.
teacher too, Bob Waldinger, and it's
Mm,
beautiful.
awesome, 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 awesome. So you keep you've brought up several times the importance of caring for other people. Can you say a little bit more about that? Why that's
Hmm.
so important too? Because it seems like that's an important part of the good life for you, is caring for other people and wishing for their well-being.
Yeah. Well, I've been cared before by people who I was not expecting. So I had trauma crosses our lives, and when we are not expecting, right? I had difficulties during my story. I grew up in a very patriarchal city in Brazil, in the middle of Brazil. My hometown is not even 100 years. It's the age of my grandmother. I think it's Goiânia is 90 something years. And back then, like, great. My mom and my dad, they gave the best they could, right? We were we came from, I would say, upper middle class, and I grew up with all the resources that a child has to have. Education. My mom always provide like the best education, that hometown and everything. But something was quite not right when we immigrated to the United States. I went back to Brazil to go to school, and that's when I believe that the sense of self was kind of lost out there. I didn't know who I was. Like, as a young age, you put there like to 18 years old, you're living by yourself, going to school. And that's what when things started like imploding in terms of anxiety. And I was medicated with Clonopin, which in 3 months caused me like addiction. And it was very sad, because I was a young girl, like very responsible in terms of I never tried drugs, illicit drugs. But unfortunately, that happened, actually, I say nowadays, fortunately, because it was part of my story.
Mm.
And trauma crossed my life. Like I end up like addicted to clonazepam in a bad way, like 20 years old, and I was totally dependent of that medication. And the hospitalization in Brazil was not beautiful and actually happened in my hometown. Being a psychiatric ward as a psychiatric patient, but being treated like with no respect, right?
Mm.
Just as a diagnosis. Like I was not seen as a human being. And of course, one medication that becomes other medications, and like many diagnoses that made no sense. And I was over medicated in a very short period and disrespected also, right? Suffering. Like you see yourself in a psychiatric ward where you have nobody trusting you. So I came to the US. My sister went to Brazil. She brought me to the US. She said, "You got to go back to the United States. Like things are not looking good." And I was hospitalized again. I had to be hospitalized. I understand, my body was suffering abstinence. I needed the medication. But I will never forget that inside the Mass General Hospital in Boston, during 12 days that I stayed inside a psychiatric ward, I was treated totally different. It was a totally different treatment, right? First, they tried to detox me with medications for allergy. It was very interesting the way they tried to help my body to be back on track, like, try to be a little healthier back then. In those 12 days, I remember pretty well everything that happened.
Mm.
And they are part of my journey. I'm proud of those days because they made me go where many of my clients have been. I had to be there. And I remember my seventh day of hospitalization, Broderick. I was suffering a lot because I didn't understand what was going on. I'm like, what is happening to me? I'm so young and I'm distrusted by everybody, right? And then something bigger than me. I don't know how to label that nowadays because I think everybody believes in something different. But for me, it was something much above myself. Like my mission may be saying, don't worry, you'll be fine and you can understand why you're going through this later. And that night, when I was suffering so much, my seventh day, I got a sense of like peace and calm inside that psychiatric ward. And I was in the worst part of the hospital, like where, I was like sharing room with a lady who was screaming all night long. And the day after, we had meetings during in the morning, right? And during the first meeting, like people who were being admitted that they were introduced to ourselves, like to everybody, like, hey, this person is coming in, was very dynamic, treatment. And this woman comes with a dog because she was blind and the dog was like her work dog. And she said, "Hey everybody, I'm here, and also my dog is going to be with me, and my dog's name is Oasis because she's my oasis." And I connected right away with that dog. Like that dog became my partner. That I'm like, I don't want to disrespect. I know she's working, but when she's not working, can I be with her? And the woman said, "Yes, of course." That dog was like my angel during the last 5 days of treatment, and I just had a sense of peace. I became like so playful and grateful, and I started talking to people and exploring what was going on there. And the nurses said, "Wow, you're not angry anymore for being here." I'm like, "No, I'm fine, whatever, it is what it is." And I
Mm.
started being curious about everybody's story inside that place. It was very interesting. And I had no rush to be discharged, but I had to be discharged at some point because my doctor came to me and he's like, "I think you're doing well. You're doing quite well. So we're going to start working on our discharge process. And before that, you're going to go to a class of coping skills. And we don't think you have anything that needs medication. You are fine, Suzanne. You're just a young girl who is anxious, right? But there are ways for you to cope with anxiety without even having medication." And I'm like, "Okay, what are those?" So I went to that class, and our teacher, who was a doctor, right? He drew a tree on the board, and it was the coping skills tree. And there was a lot of options for us to choose. Like was me and probably 3 other patients who were going to be discharged as well. So that doctor started writing on the board like different types of activities, running, listening to music, and my eyes went straight to yoga and mindfulness. And that's how my journey in yoga started. That day, I was treated as a human being, I would say. Those doctors were the doctors who look at me and say, we don't have to label you with a diagnosis. You're just a human being fighting for your rights, fighting for your life, fighting to understand who you are. Just do something for yourself. And then I started, like, I'll never forget when I left the hospital, and my journey for self-discovery started right there. It's been, boy, I'm kind of old now, 21 years around. And I'll never change those experiences. They helped me understand what I wanted to do for life. And that's a kind of like a mission that I carry with myself for caring for others. So that story brought me to be a mental health counselor and to care for others as I was cared for.
Beautiful, Susane. Thank you for sharing that. That's yeah, what a journey, right?
What a journey.
When we have someone that is curious about us, the curiosity
Exactly.
again, and when we feel valued as a human being, then it can, just to keep the theme of this podcast, it can really enhance the probability of a life worth living
Absolutely.
when we cared for, and then into care for others
Care for
uh,
others.
as a result, and just how we care for each other. Just imagine if we learn how to care for each other, to be concerned about another, to have compassion
Mm-hmm.
for others. I mean, it doesn't mean you agree with everything that people are doing, but you learn how to care for each other. There's something magical that happens. Someone cared for you, and look at what happened. It just puts you on this trajectory where you're caring for the lives of others. It's just beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you said something else in there that I think is so important, is acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
You accepted your situation. You accepted, okay, this is where I'm at. It's so relieving when we just accept where we are, no matter what traumatic experience that we've gone through. When I say acceptance, it's just acknowledging, like, okay, this is where I am. Doesn't mean I'm going to cling to it, or I'm going to attach myself to it and like hold on to it. It's more of, this is my experience. That was my experience. I cannot change that. But what I
It's
can do
true.
is transform my relationship with it. But if I never accept that, then I'll never be able to transform my relationship with it. And that acceptance starts with curiosity again, really. And there's a
Yeah.
process of being curious about our experience, and learning how to be okay with what has happened. It doesn't mean that we have to like it. It's not about like and dislike. But I can accept that, okay, shit, it sucks.
It does
It
suck.
is
Are
hard.
you kidding me?
That was awful. Okay. All right, now what do I do from there? What
It's
can I do
true.
now? I don't need to hold on to it. How can I? And there's another thing that we can learn to help make our lives better and make life worth living, is learning how to let go,
Uh-huh.
learning how to forgive, learning how to let go of something that is binding us down, that is harmful and that's painful. Learning how to
Mm-hmm.
let
Mm-hmm.
go. Um, all those different things are going to help us along our journey to find some sense of peace and make those deep, profound connections
It's
with
very true.
others and ourselves.
Without
Because
those experiences, we cannot evolve, right?
no, yeah, man, I'll be lying if I said, "Oh man, all the stuff that happened in my life was so pleasant." No, no,
No, they're not.
no. It's a lot of it just was terrible. But I'm like, well, it helped me be the person that I am. I wouldn't go back and repeat it. No, I wouldn't try to repeat any of that, but I have to accept that that's just what had transpired. And now what can I do after accepting that? Now, how can I explore with curiosity
Yeah.
my experience in life and who I am today?
And who I am today. Exactly. The truth is that we don't, I'm not here promoting that I'm like, oh, it was so nice to spend a couple days in a psychiatric ward. No, that's not the truth, you know.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, when I step in the master program and my letter of for acceptance in the programs was actually my story. The first class I took was trauma and crisis. And one of the first them that came to me, I was in the university and I opened the book and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. It's a concept called trauma growth, right? So out of trauma, you can grow. And then
Mm-hmm.
tears in my eyes because I'm like, wow, when people know how to reshape trauma, something good can come out of that. Not that we wish everybody has trauma. Like as a mom, I don't want my kids to go through many things I went through, of course. At the same time, we should not underestimate that every human being have the capacity to be out of struggles. Okay? For parents, it's so hard to understand that, but our kids are going to be in difficult times and they do have the capacity to come out of that. Some people need more help, some people not. And the concept of no mud, no lotus, right? So we don't want to be facing trauma. It's not fun. But at the same time, if you put a human being in a bubble, right, in a crystal ball, what's going to come out of that? Our experiences are the ones that make us understand what we want to do in life. Years later, the same story that I'm sharing here, I was invited to speak in a conference in Brazil for psychologists. And it's not easy to be vulnerable. Brené Brown speaks about that. Not everybody wants to be vulnerable. And my mom is like, you sure you're going to share that in that conference? And I'm like, I'm not sure. I'm 120% sure I will share that because I look back and I'm not ashamed of my story. I'm actually proud of what came out of that. And some of my clients, they're like, wow, how do you get it? And I'm like, I'm not going to be sharing about myself with them, but it's an energy that I exchange that I'm like, buddy, I know, and you can come out of that, but you empower people when you say you can do it. And I
Yeah.
experienced that. It was hard. It's not beautiful to say. Some experiences are like, why? Right? But they teach us.
Mm-hmm.
Every experience and every human being in our lives can be teachers.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I know. I think we grow out of challenge. You mentioned that earlier as well, being curious, being open to learning, and learning, precipitates growth. And we, there's things we can put ourselves in challenging situations to help us grow. Like both of us train capoeira, it's you
Exactly.
challenge yourself, you put yourself in situations that are hard, and you keep doing it until eventually you get it. That's the learning process. You challenge your mind, you challenge your body in various ways and you're doing that intentionally to learn something. But life also challenges us. And if
Mm-hmm.
we are not attached, if we're not clinging to the experience itself and identifying with it, but we're curious about the experience and curious about how that experience is influencing us, it can lead
Mm-hmm.
to the process of growth. Because you're like, how I am as a result of that experience is not helpful. It's not good.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel good. And then
Mm-hmm.
because that again, it's that curiosity again, and because I have that awareness, that sensitivity that this is not pleasant, and then I can have this sense of this awareness that well, it doesn't have to be this way. I don't have to relate to my experiences this way. I can relate to my experiences another way.
Mm-hmm.
That encourages exploration, learning. Okay, what can I learn to help me transcend my current way of relating to my experiences? That's
Mm-hmm.
growth. That's how we learn something. And with that learning and growth, we can navigate the world much more effectively, much more
Mm-hmm.
efficiently,
Mm-hmm.
better. We can make life worth living. Because if we're just stuck and we're wallowing, we're bound by our traumatic experiences, our not victimhood, but our woundedness. I guess victimhood too. We can just perpetuate being a victim as a result of our experiences. But if we're just stuck on that and we're not curious about the possibility for something else, and if we're not open to growing and learning, then we're not
What's
gonna.
the point,
What's
right?
the point? Life is not gonna be worth living.
Worth exactly.
Yeah, because it's yeah. If we're not doing those things, I'm trying to
And it's such
tease.
an energy, as you say.
Yeah, it is. I was trying to tease out. I've been trying to. Some days I'm better than others, but tease out the different pieces of the puzzle. When you mentioned curiosity and we talked about connection, what facilitates connection, trying to bring in some of those different um, values that can, so not values, I guess you can call them values. Values are capacities that can help facilitate that, like practicing non-attachment, practicing curiosity, practicing awareness, and having a growth mindset. All
Mm-hmm.
these different things can help make life better and make it worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's something else that you mentioned, core values. And I want to, we're coming to a close here, but I want to ask you, what are those core values that you think are important for you to live a good life?
You know what is funny? Because some people say core values you don't change, right? You stick
Hmm.
with them, they're yours. That rule is not gonna work for me because because the way I grew up, and as I said, my parents, my grandparents, I'm very grateful. I take the good part that makes sense for me. I wouldn't say the good part. I take the part that makes sense for me nowadays. They gave their best, but I am 40 years old and now I can shape my view of like what are my core values. And my core values have changed. If you talk to me 20 years ago, they were some values, right? And nowadays, my main core value is accept everybody as long as there is no harm for others or for myself. And it doesn't mean that I'm already open 100% for that, but that value is driving my purpose of being with. I don't have to be empathetic or anti you. I just have to be with you wherever you are. That's my
Mm-hmm.
purpose, guided by my core value that like every human being have the right to be and to express themselves the way they want.
Mm-hmm.
It is, as I said, so hard. I come from totally different culture, but I'm open to learn and learn from my mistakes and understand my wounds and what they cause me, why I cope certain ways, right? And I do want to be guided by that core value as now when I'm 40. Maybe things are going to change. I hope not, because I really love that one.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Valuing everybody. Everyone has value as a core value for you. That's so
Everybody
beautiful.
has. Yeah, that's my value.
Mm-hmm. Can you, I'm going to challenge you to, can you say a little bit more about that? Why? Why do you feel like everyone has value?
Because the more I look into myself, I see a person that has so many biases, right? The way I grew up, and that prevent me to be connected with beautiful human beings out there in the past. And nowadays I'm like, human being, we do connect, but look how different we are. And it's so awesome because because it's, as I said, it's something that I'll never be able to put in words here, but it's magical.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have so many stories in my journey of connection, of people who are in other places, like we've seen each other once in life, and they're like, dude, I just miss you. And I'm like, I miss you too. And that's priceless because of that, because I met them where they are. And they're probably living a totally different life, or, different than myself. My best friends, the people I connect most, we are very different.
Mm-hmm.
But we meet each other, we exchange such a beautiful connection, love, and it's beautiful. I don't know how to put name like on that. That's why. And I want to it guides me also to learn different languages, like when I was in France, they're being so uh pretentious, right, that I speak French fluently, because I want to connect with people through language too. And I want to hear about them, their stories, and it just fascinates me, human beings and their stories. Some people, when I meet them and I'm like, wow, your story kind of like scares me, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
scares me in a way that I'm like, wow, would I ever be? But then they bring me curiosity for myself, like why I'm being kind of like feeling that is weird in my journey, right? And then I want to
Mm-hmm.
explore, and I love that. It makes me wake up every day very motivated.
Awesome. I love it. You keep coming back to connection. That's such an important thing to you, and your core value of valuing another human being. And when you can value other human beings, you can make that profound connection with folks. And that you threw another word in there that I think is so important. I mean, it's my core value is love, and how that experience that you're saying is indescribable. Well, some of us refer to it as love. The experience of love when you have profound, deep connection, and that love looks different in different ways. The way I use the word, but yeah. Can you say something about love? Because you brought that up a few times as well. Can you elaborate on that a little bit if you want to, if you
Wow.
like?
Love is acceptance, right? Is accepting who you are, who others are, who ourselves are. Love is open. Love does not harm, does not cause suffering. Love respects people and nature and whatever is around us, universe, the way they are, with no harm. Love is so pure. It's so hard to put in words. What is love for you, Broderick? Help me
I know,
here. It's just
right?
energy. It's like those things that you look in someone's like eyes and you're like, wow, 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 wow,
Mm-hmm.
you in my journey, my friend. So there is no words. It goes beyond
Awesome.
words.
I love it. And, I think that there's a podcast, and we're playing with language here, and
We have to
and
say
yeah, we
something.
have we try to describe stuff, and that's fine. But I'm aware, and since I am aware that we're just merely pointing fingers. And even when I'm speaking, I have so many different words that are popping in my mind, and I'm like, I start one word, then I start another word, and then I'm like, then I get lost. And I'm like, even right now, I'm like, well, what am I trying to say here? Because what we're really doing as we're using language is trying to like, hey, that's it, like this is it. Oh, let me look. What if I let me point to it from this angle by using all these different words? But the word is not it. And I find I used to get frustrated with myself. Like, why can't you just articulate yourself? Why can't you just speak clearly?
Me
And
too.
what I've learned is, well, because there's not a word that can really capture what I'm trying to convey. And so
Exactly.
I can never find the right word. It's so hard for me. Now, sometimes when I'm very caffeinated and I had a very good night of sleep, I can flow with language, with words. But most of the time, I cannot. Um, and I'm always trying to search for the right word, but recognize that there is no right word for it. It's a feeling, it's an experience. And what I'm going to ask you some more words because we were talking about
It's a
earlier, like,
podcast. Remind
I
us.
know. And so you're like, oh, it's this experience and it's so wonderful. Can you just find as many adjectives as you can to describe that feeling of connection, that feeling of love? Can you throw out some adjectives for the audience? Even knowing that they're limited, they're not going to really say what it is.
They
But
are
how can you?
limited. Yeah. It's energy. It's um it's energy. It's a sense of well-being that is nothing, no challenge that life brings remove that from us.
Mm-hmm.
Like John Kabat-Zinn says, like life is gonna keep bringing waves, right? And then the surf just becomes like amazing no matter the wave.
Mm-hmm.
It's a motivation that makes life make sense. It's very hard to put in words.
Yeah.
Just a feeling, just a feeling, and I'm very happy that that's my most valuable gift the
Mm.
universe has brought me.
Awesome. Okay, let me throw out some words and see if that resonates with you. That
You
sense of,
helping me.
yeah, let's see, because I really want to, because it's something I want to say before we close about this. So this word, so peace, is that a part of it? Does it feel like
It's
peace?
peaceful. It's
It's
peaceful.
peaceful.
It's calm.
It's calm. What other
It's like looking
words?
over a ladybug and just having so much fun that everybody around you who do not get that energy probably that you are
Mm-hmm.
experiencing, they're like, why are you crazy? Like, no, you are
Mm-hmm.
crazy in a very good way. It's
Awesome.
talking about ladybugs and the conversation makes sense, if that makes sense for you guys. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you love ladybugs. That's great. And
or
so,
whatever, moons, right? Like when there is a full
yeah.
moon, it's so funny because last week I started like documenting with screenshots. I probably had in the week of full moon 20-25 messages from people everywhere, like my friend from Texas, like, I look at the full moon and I look and I remember you because I'm so obsessed by the moon. That's love, right?
Yeah.
And that makes people like, dude, I've never looked over the moon like now because you encourage me so much. I'm so fascinated that I make people like, are you kidding me? Right?
Mm,
That's love.
awesome. And so for you, I love it. So the good life folks, what I gather from what you've been saying here is profound connections of love that feels good, that feels peaceful. There's this energy that's indescribable. And that's what makes life worth living. Having those experiences, having
That's
those
true.
moments. That's beautiful. Yeah, and I love also how the conversation never it was never reduced to just me, myself, my isolated self. I love how out of these conversations I've had with folks that at least I think everybody, but I can at least say most people have included others in their picture of what a good life is, what makes life worth living. You've done it today. You've done nature, not just people, but other experiences, dogs,
It's true.
ladybugs, the moon, the living and the so-called non-living, and making those various connections to have an indescribable experience of love. And the word love still doesn't do it any justice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with you. I love it. I love that that's your view on the good life. And I embrace that as well. So thank you for highlighting those things for us today. Are there any final words that you'd like to share with the audience before we sign off?
Wow. Just so grateful, Broderick, for your life, for inviting me for this, for having a friend in the United States that shares, another friend in the journey, another person that is in the same plane, I would say. I love
Mm-hmm.
like in this travel called life. So thank you so much for this meaningful moment for me. I'll never forget. And I have to finish with just probably folks who are going to listen to this never heard about Goiânia. So my hometown is 1 hour from Brasilia in Brazil. So the federal district is inside my state, Goiás. And I always mention this woman who was a poetess. Is that right to say? She's a female poet.
Poet. Oh, okay. I
Yes,
don't know. I don't
Cora
know.
Coralina. She
Mhm.
lived in the beginning of the last century, and she's very famous at the same time. Not that famous, and I carry her since young age. My mom says like I was obsessed for her writings, like a very wise woman. And she says something that says it's not worth passing life if you cannot touch people's heart. So I do
Mhm.
have that as a mission, and that's how I want to end tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Susani. I love you. I feel like we have a connection, and we've built this connection through cyberspace, I guess.
And that's
But
because I don't love technology, but here it is.
I know,
Through
here it is.
capoeira too and
The
yoga,
capoeira,
right?
yoga, all of it. And yeah, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for having you here on the podcast and sharing your love with the world. I think it's so important. You're a beautiful soul, and I just encourage you to keep doing you, keep shining your light in the world. And thank you for the blessing that you gave us today in this conversation.
Thank you, Broderick. Same. It's mutual. We're together forever.
Forever. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. I hope this conversation has inspired you to reflect on your own views of the good life. If you enjoyed the show and want to hear more inspiring and thought-provoking conversations, please follow, write a review, and rate us on your favorite podcast app. If you are tuning in on YouTube, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support is very much appreciated.